In the last video, I worked on laying out and cutting some joinery to accommodate members to support the upper loft staircase, as well as a brace. Today in this video, what I'm gonna do is start cutting those support members and the brace. I'm gonna start by cutting the brace and we'll see how to do that, cut the tenons for those mortise pockets that I marked up previously. And then later on, I will actually drill and chisel out those pockets and then get this whole thing assembled. So we have a 4x6 here, and this is actually about 3 3/4 by 6, but it'll work great for this application. So I'm just gonna put a line on here at 45 degrees. And then where this line ends, I'm gonna extend it down across this side. And I'm also gonna try and do that over here, although I'm in a situation where I've got a bit of a wane here, and that's okay. So that is gonna mark the shoulder, so that'll be what meets up against the post. My tenon itself is going to be 3 inches long. So this is where it's gonna extend in. And then I'm gonna draw another parallel line, and I'm actually gonna come just inside of that pencil tick mark because I don't wanna risk my tenon being too long. So this is where the tenon will be. However, I don't want to cut a pocket that goes into the post on this angle. So what I actually need to do is come along here like this and do that so that the actual tenon is going to be right there. Now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and cut this out. So believe it or not, I'm going to remove the wood on this side. I will set the saw such that it leaves 2 inches of wood down below. So the saw here is set for 2 inches depth, and what I'm gonna do is make a series of parallel cuts through here right next to each other to leave thin pieces that I'll be able to knock out with the chisel. All right, this doesn't need to be perfect now, but what this enables me to do is measure from this point. This is going to be a 45-degree brace, so I need to know from here to the top shoulder exactly how long it's going to be. And remember, those mortise pockets are 24 inches down from the corner to this point on both sides. So essentially, I have a right triangle with a 24-inch side and a 24-inch side. And so based on that, I can calculate this length. Now the length that I need is 33 15/16 inches. So here's 34, 33 15/16 is right there. And so what happens is I put my 45 line that comes down through that point, and then the tenon, which is gonna go into the mortise, is gonna be out beyond that by 3 inches. Same thing as before, that tick mark's at 3, so my line's gonna be just shy of that so that I end up with the right length. And then again, I need the squared off edge of the pocket to be here. So from where the camera is, you can't see this, but that open groove is running here and out over here. I'm about to cut this end off, and then I'm gonna cut this line to create the bottom of that tenon. There it is, so that both of them have the shoulder on the same side and a 2-inch tenon on the other side. when you set the saw correctly, you can use the saw blade marks as a guide. Once you can just barely see those, you're at the right thickness. To finish this off, I'm just gonna chamfer the corners. And by that, what I mean is I'm just gonna take off a little bit of material here so that it'll be able to get into that pocket. You know, you don't always get the edges of the pocket cut perfectly square and deep, so taking off a little bit of material here can help this slide right in and fully seat. Now to support the staircase, I actually need two pieces that are 2 feet long, but that 2 feet is not including the tenon that goes into the beam. So what I actually need to do here is mark out where that tenon will be. So I'll start down at this end, we'll come in 3 inches, and because I have this wane here, that's actually going to be the top. And what I'm going to do is just come down 3, because again, that pocket up there is 4 wide by 3 deep. So here's my tenon, here's what I'm going to cut away. Now I need 2 feet from this line to the outer extent of this member. So coming out 2 feet, and then I need to do a joint here as well. The difference here is I'm actually going to be coming back, in this case, 4 inches, because we're going to lap the 4x6 on top. So we do this, and now this is important. The tenon's on the top on this side. The tenon must also be on the top here, because the cross member that goes between these two members that come out of the beam is going to be supported by a post. So I want that cross member to be the bottom wood. So there's going to be my tenon. Now I just need to mark out the 3-foot piece here for the outside of that stair support. So we're going to go right from the end. All right, so now we're on to just needing to cut out the mortise for the brace here. We're going to use the same drill bit that's about 1 inch and drill this 3 inches deep. Definitely not the prettiest mortise. You can see I over-drilled some of the holes a little bit deep. However, it is large enough to sufficiently accommodate the tenon on the brace. And When I set this brace in here, you can see that that shoulder sits nice and flush. So this pocket's done, now we just need to do the post. This mortise was appreciably more difficult to cut than the other. One difference here is this post is actually a piece of hemlock, and the other big difference is it's not green. I've had this for 5 or 6 years laying around left over from a prior project. So this was dry wood, which is a little harder to work. Easy does it. And that is why this brace is going in here. Well, I'll peg it, and that is set. So I decided to mark on here where this tenon falls, because I was trying to decide where to put the peg. And so I had started out coming 1.5 inches in, which would be halfway, and going up 2 inches. And then ultimately I decided going up 3 inches would be better, kind of put me right in the middle of that tenon. So what I'm going to do now is just take this small drill bit and put a pilot hole through, because I do want this to go nice and straight through to the other side. All right, so if you take a look, that oak peg is in there and came right through to the other side. For the top end of the brace, I opted to leave the peg long as a hanger, and on the other side, I left it coming through just for the aesthetic. In addition to the pegs on the brace, there's also some structural screws running down from the top through the beam into the post on this end, as well as down here on this end through the beam into this beam below to really lock this together. What I'm gonna do right now, this is just sitting by gravity. I'm gonna sink structural screws there, and in the other corner. Right now there's already screws into that post for that cross member. It definitely took some fiddling to get this square and close to level, and it's not perfect, but it's definitely good enough. There are screws now in that outside. This is tacked down here at the floor. This is pretty much plumb. It almost is resting directly on a 6x6 joist. You can see by those line of nails there, it's just off, but that 1.5 inch thick tongue and groove flooring is sufficient to support it. I didn't want to bring it any more to the left because needed clearance for that window there. So we've achieved that. The other thing is this post is actually centered on that cross member. So it's kind of nice laid out where it is. Sliding the door all the way open, we've got our clearance there. We're not hitting that member. And we also have a good couple inches of clearance coming by here, so works out great. And up there, that is an 1.5 inch thick spacer. So those two spacers are currently holding those stair stringers up off of this frame. Once I put that 1.5 inch thick tongue and groove decking, it will slide under and it will support that staircase directly, and I'll be able to screw those stringers down to the flooring. So at last, we are ready for flooring. The area behind me with the stair landing and the brace was definitely the trickiest to put together, but overall, I'm pleased with the results. I'm pleased with how it looks, and it's a lot more robust than how it was before.